podcast. I am your host, Officer Antoine Thomas. As you know, we're in campaign season, and like I stated before, we're going to be bringing great guests on. So far, we are in season 6. We just had an episode 5 release with Lieutenant Governor candidate Hal Weatherman. Episode 4, we had Lieutenant Governor Alan Mashburn. And like I stated on the Hal Weatherman episode, that both of those candidates, and there's more running, but those two are significant to me. And like I stated to both men, going to be great. Whoever takes that seat, I pray it's one of them, and you'll get a good outcome. So I'm looking for both, if that makes sense. Like I said, I'm trying to help out both. And again, I think the state will be in great hands. And of course, with Mark Robertson as our governor, we'll be in great hands if we can take this thing all the way down to the Republican side. So this is episode 6. And tonight I have a very special guest on with me. He is a great champion of law enforcement, a great champion of the state of North Carolina. He is in education. He serves as a principal, and he has been doing that for over 10 years at a school here in Wake County. So he knows a lot about the public school system. The seat he's running for is a very significant seat. I'm going to give him an opportunity to explain more what that is. But he is running for state House of Senate, I should say, state Senate seat for District 13. He is Scott Lassiter, and he serves currently, and I'll let him talk about his platform now. He is a political figure now here in Wake County. So I want to bring him to the show and give him an opportunity to just tell about his platform. Like I stated to several of the other candidates, they do a lot of candidate forums and they don't get a chance to really dive into the meat and the potatoes of their campaign due to the time restraints they have on them. But here on the Real Talk, Scott Lassiter is going to have all the time he needs to talk about his platform. And I would pray at the end of this particular episode, you would hear him, and on March the 5th, you will go out and vote for him. So I'm going to allow Scott Lassiter. We're so glad to have you on the show, my friend. I'm so glad that you accepted the invite.
Well, thank you, Officer Thomas. And Antoine, just personally, thank you for what you are doing with this podcast. You are shining light on subjects that folks need to hear about. You touched on it a little bit about the sort of time constraints that political figures face, but also media is the very same way. Not everything can be summed up in a sound bite. Not everything can be summed up in that little 5 seconds that they want to give you. So this long form discussion that you're bringing to the people is so needed, Antoine, and your perspective is so needed. So it was very nice to hear your introduction. Again, I'm Scott Lassiter. I'm honored to serve the 1 million+ residents of Wake County as the Soil and Water elected supervisor, the vice chair of that board of supervisors. It's 3 elected supervisors that work to safeguard water and soil and conservation, work on conservation issues and education around common sense environmental practices, specifically for farmers, developments, for schools, all those kinds of things, to ensure that we've got safe drinking water. So that's a big responsibility, something I don't take lightly. Like a lot of elected offices, it is a part-time job. So you mentioned I'm an assistant principal in the public school system. That's my bill-paying job. And I'm a professional educator, was a school teacher, graduated from NC State, went back to night school at North Carolina Central University to become an administrator. And then just recently defended my dissertation and earned my doctorate at North Carolina State to earn my superintendent's licensure and certification. So that's my professional background, is a real educator. It's one of the things that's driven me to want to serve in the Senate. Service is truly important to me. It's something that's been in my body. I was that kid that was a student body president in high school and went on to student government in college. Served in my hometown of Apex's town council. Was very proud of that. Elected when I was 23 years old, something like that. And really got an education in what it takes to not just talk the talk, but to actually govern. It's a whole different thing. Anybody can espouse statements and put out shiny mailers and talk about what they're for and what they're against. It's a whole different thing when you're in that seat and have to make that decision. So that's something I'm bringing to the table, along with a true understanding of education, what it takes to make a child read, what it takes to run a school, what it takes to recruit and retain educators. And that is one of the primary functions. It's the most financially significant function of state government. And that is a voice that's desperately lacking in the legislature right now, is that of an educational leader. We've got a lot of lawyers, we've got a lot of business folks, and I commend anybody that has any sort of job. All labor is sacred to me. But if you're making decisions about public education, I think it's important that you have a background that's more than just having attended school some years ago.
I totally agree with that. It's a thing that many people get into. So like my profession there, Scott, where we're in a thankless profession, no matter what people say, because they see that we're just, in your world, you're just the guardian of kids while they're in your possession or in your custody, but it's much more. And we see around the country the indoctrination that is taking place right there at the lower level of education. It starts elementary all the way to when they get to the universities. And we need more people like you, the mindset that you have and the will that you have. And I commend you. First of all, congratulations on your doctorate. And second of all, that is very motivating to anybody out there that you heard that Scott said he reached the level of at the age of 24, and that's a beautiful thing. And you know one thing, Scott, I want to say, our country is in dire need of young leaders who have the wherewith, right? Would you agree with me on that? And you are just the man for the job. So I want to dive right into the heart of what you're getting ready to face up against, because you're running for a state seat, and I know that that's a lot of travel in your car, a lot of wear and tear in your body, because you got to get out there and meet the people, but you're the man for the job. And so tell us about your candidacy. Where are you looking to go from here? And of course, we'll end with why should the supporters support you. I know all the reasons why, but I'll let you have the opportunity to share that in the end. But tell us about your journey in this Senate race.
Well, thank you. So North Carolina State Senate, there are 50 state senators. Our state is divided into districts. This particular district is in southern Wake County. I tell folks to basically think about Crossroads. Everybody sort of knows where Crossroads is, the shopping center where US 1 and 40 merge there, kind of a traffic headache. So
yes, headache.
But if you'll take the county map of Wake and go draw a line and go south, then there's a good chance that you're in this district. So that's southern part of Cary, that's part of Apex, that's part of Holly Springs. It's all of Fuquay, Willow Springs. It's got some of Garner, some of Nightdale in it. So some wonderful people. This is a district that myself or somebody in my immediate family has been in for 100 years plus. I'm one of those folks that's a native. Grew up in Apex, attended Apex Public Schools, and now live just across the border over here in Cary, southern part of Cary. And so I hadn't gotten too far away from home. Matter of fact, I tell folks, aside from vacation, I don't know that I've ever spent a night outside of Wake County. I certainly haven't lived anywhere outside of Wake County. And I've been blessed to continue my service, and both in the schools, but also in elected office here in my home county of Wake, and provide that perspective. But you asked about the campaign, Antoine, and I will say it is a campaign that's laser focused on the interest of real people. One reason I'm so excited to be on your show. We need real talk. We need real people in elected office. If you're looking for that canned cookie cutter politician, you're not going to get it in me. People say I talk too much. People say I say more than I should. But I feel like transparency is the key. And if we've got nothing, if we're doing the right thing, we don't have anything to hide. I will not stand in front of the viewers tonight or anybody and say that I'm a perfect person. I've had struggles like everybody has. There have been things I've done that I'm not proud of. There's been a lot of things I've done that I am proud of. But we know if we're Christians, we understand the duality of man. We understand we're all sinners and saved by his grace and by accepting him. But this is a campaign that, now look, there'll be folks that don't agree with everything I say, right? I tend to believe some of the best solutions come from places outside of the government. Some of the best things we can do is get out of the way and let free market and let enterprise and innovation solve our problems. But so you'll have folks that push back on some of my concepts. Believe it or not, we've got folks that push back on the Constitution. To me, that's a holy, sacred document that we have got to stay true to. You've taken an oath as a law enforcement officer. I've been privileged to take 2 oaths as an elected official. And those are not things we can take lightly. The Constitution is not there just for convenient, when it's convenient. So this is a campaign that is out there for the right reasons. It's out there for anybody that's a contributing member of society. We respect all those voices. Like I say, we may not agree with everybody, or you may not agree with everything I say. What I will do is show up. I will listen. My real cell phone number has been out there for all my students the whole time I've been an administrator, or all my parents. But it's been out there for all my constituency. If there's an issue, even in the role I'm in now in the water and soil department, I may not directly touch it, but I promise you I can find you who you need to be interfacing with. And I'm going to take that same concept of good constituent services to the state Senate. But more than that, I'm going to be a fresh voice. I'm going to be somebody that, look, I don't need the job. I don't have high political aspirations, but I've had this opportunity. This opportunity has presented itself, and I think I'm the right person for it. And I just encourage folks to do their research on the candidates in the primary, in the general. Think about who would you hire if you were interviewing for this job, because I do believe elections ultimately are job interviews. And if we're voting correctly, we're vetting those candidates, we're looking, and we're truly doing our homework. And I've lived a life where I'm proud of what your research is going to bring up, and I'm ready to stand on that record. And I tell you, Antoine, if necessary, if this is the end of my service, I'll lay down my rifle and go back home, because we're asked to serve for the people, not to create a career. And I have no interest in creating a career in the legislature. I want to go do my work, contribute my piece, and get out and go back and live my life.
Well said. And that's something that we see all the way from state to our federal races. We have career politicians. And that's, you know what? You bring up a good point. Talk to a lot of people, and as well, I know you do. And I have the opportunity to talk to a lot of law enforcement officers too. And a lot of them, believe it or not, Scott, they are fed up with politics as just the next man is. But theirs in particular is to see that they are a public servant like we are, of course, doing a separate job. But to see the amount of money, I always hear this, the amount of money that these people have made over the years being a public servant, then you look at us laying our lives on the line and the amount of money that we make as a compensation for that. But they're really fed up. And then when you take cops out of the picture, just people in general, I know you talk to a lot of people, and they're actually shying away from even voting, because what's the thing we hear all the time? Why am I voting? It's nothing's going to happen. They're going to do what they want to do. They're going to put in office, and just rebut that. But it's kind of hard to defend it, because I do state the facts is this. You're right. You're 100% right. We see it. I'm not here to sit here and try to defend these politicians, because it's true. We see it, that a lot of people are in this, and we see people dying in that seat because they're refusing to give it up for the next person. And we talked about it earlier, the younger generation. And you said something very profound. If the listeners don't hear anything, which they're going to hear a lot of great things from you tonight, but just that one piece should show them the genuineness of your heart, and look at your track record as a principal, a teacher, and then being in public service now. That says a man who loves to do it. And let's face it, I'm sure you make thousands and millions of dollars doing what you do in the water conservation. And so you're doing it from the bottom of your heart.
$64 a month is my stipend there. Now that's a bargain. That's a bargain. I've refused to advocate for that pay. Look, that's what the statute said. I'm not doing it to get rich. We've got a professional staff that handles the heavy lift. I'd rather see them get the paycheck than me. It's just an honor to serve. But I'll tell you, and it's law enforcement is near and dear to my heart. And I think there's a shared kinship with any of us in public service fields, whether it be nursing, law enforcement, EMS, fire, teaching. When you're working with people and you're helping people, which is what all of those jobs really do at their core, you understand that there's some hurt in this world. You understand that we have problems in this world. things are not always as clear cut as some folks would make it out to be. You know, one of my favorite things to explain to my students is about officer discretion and how often your attitude and your willingness to just be a decent person to that other person behind that badge can make a difference in your outcome. Because y'all aren't out there trying to ruin people's days. The principal doesn't come to school trying to suspend students. The teacher doesn't come to school to get upset with folks. And we're really just trying to hold this society together. We're really just trying to support our folks, to keep the world turning on its axis correctly. And there's a whole lot trying to knock it off today. And our young people deal with an awful lot that, you know, you and I are about the same age. That could you imagine if we had one of these in our pockets when we were when we were 13 or 14 years old? We see folks ruining their lives, young people, before they even get started. And that's one of the saddest things. It's going to take us all working together.
Totally agree. And that's need, and that's why you are bidding for that seat. But I want to ask you, for folks who are not really educated on what a senator does, even from, let's talk about obviously your seat from the state level, what is actually your role as a state senate? We know that we have the House, and then House representatives, that is, and then we have the state senate. What does your job entail as it pertains to your seat?
So, Antoine, our state government, folks talk about the Constitution a lot, right? Well, we actually are beholden to two constitutions. We have our federal Constitution for the United States, and then we have a state constitution. And as you know, that federal constitution, now this is my old civics teacher coming out. This is what I was trained to do. So I'm going to give you a lesson now. So that's
the lesson.
Do it. So that that federal constitution establishes Congress, it establishes the federal courts, it establishes the presidency, and all that kind of stuff. Well, you drop down in that state constitution, establishes the state legislature, which is the state House and the state Senate. And then it also establishes the state court system, and it establishes the state executive, which is the governor. So we know, if you go back to those civics classes, in an ideal world, and what I truly advocate for is somebody that believes in the Constitution, that is, those three branches of government are separate but equal, but they each do something very different. Your legislative branch creates the laws, and in North Carolina we call them general statutes. Those of you involved in policing understand that better than anybody. You could probably quote it. GS such and such, was it GS 140? Is that all the traffic law? What's the traffic law in North Carolina? See how good I am at this. I think it's chapter 120. I don't know. I forget what.
You're right. Chapter 20. Chapter 20.
Chapter 20, not 120. Okay.
Listen, you're on top of it, though. It don't matter.
Well, there's something. But you could certainly look it up, and there are reams and reams of these laws, right? It's everything that's governing our society. And that's what the legislature does, is draft those laws somewhere. So the founders of our state wrote the Constitution. It was modified all the way up. Our last sort of constitutional revamp was in the 70s, and made a lot of changes in state government in the 70s, including having a unified court system. Before then, you had justices of the peace, and you had some of our old hats around might remember that. But you're creating general statute or modifying general statute. So that's one key piece of it. And you can imagine lots of judgment has to go into that. Sometimes a new law to solve a problem may not be the what we really need to solve the problem, right? Maybe there's a law that can be adjusted. Maybe there's a law that already addresses that. So do we really need to rush in and add more paper to those books? And then the other piece that's very important is the legislature establishes tax policy for the state of North Carolina through a budget. And this biannual budget process, that's really the most important work of the legislature. Every 2 years, they have got to put out a state budget. And it alternates in origination between the state house. Sometimes the state house presents a budget. Sometimes the state senate presents a budget. And that takes all of our state tax dollars and loads it towards individual state agencies, whether it be the Highway Patrol, the State Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Public Education, the Department of Prisons. All of those things funnel through this huge document, this state budget. And of course, your tax rate is set on that and all that kind of stuff. So that's extremely important. And as you can imagine, one of the jobs of legislator is figuring out how much is enough for some of these agencies. Is their request valid? What are they doing with the money that they currently have? And because budgets are priorities, right? There's a finite amount of public money to go around. You know, there's a lot of worthy causes, but you have to figure out what you're going to invest in. And to me, when I look at investment, it's part of my campaign platform, and it's really where this comes from. We've got to think about what are the core functions of government. It's easy to suggest that the government can solve every societal problem. I personally don't believe that's the role of government. I don't think it's possible for government to do that. I'm looking at families, I'm looking at churches, I'm looking at nonprofits, not necessarily this person, this heavy hand of state government agencies to come in and fix every issue that individuals have in their lives. But what I am expecting our state government to do is focus on the core, focus on the things that are truly their responsibility, and make sure that we are doing those to our absolute best. Then, if we need to go out and work on new problems, let's do that. And to me, our absolute core, obviously public safety. We cannot hit that enough. We are a nation of laws, and there has to be rule of law. It is the ultimate equalizer in our country. It is the rule. They are the rules we play by, and there's no other way to make this thing fair. We are not governed by men. We are a society that should be governed by laws. Obviously, law enforcement plays a huge role in that. Education is tremendously important. Our state constitution, not every state does this, but in our state constitution, our forefathers codified that every child in this school, regardless of color, creed, every child in this state, regardless of where they lived, if they live in Murphy or Manteo, if they live in Rocky Mount or Wake County, they are entitled to a sound, basic, free public education, K through 12. And the reason for that is these are our next generation of voters. In order for us to continue this democracy, this representative, this republic, we have got to have smart people go into that ballot box. And we've got to have people that understand they can't just be tricked by the person that says they're going to give them the most. Because we have folks walking around and campaigning for office, and ultimately that is their platform. They don't have one of these well-developed platforms that talk about public safety and infrastructure and education. They're basically just saying, look, if you vote for me, I'm going to raise your salary. Or if you vote for me, I'm going to increase your benefits, your entitlement benefits. People have got to understand that we are part of a bigger system than just that. There's been some folks a lot smarter than me a lot longer ago that have said that we're in real trouble as soon as people understand that they can just vote for the person that says they're going to give them more. And if that's what you're doing, there's something you're missing, because that's not what this country is all about. You heard me talk about infrastructure. North Carolina used to be known as the good road state. That almost sounds laughable to those of us in southern Wake County right now, because what we're seeing is development come in. We're seeing growth. And look, growth isn't inevitable. We're an attractive place to live. We welcome our new neighbors, and we are proud of our folks with the heritage here in Wake County. But what we've got to ensure that we're doing is keeping up with the growth, that the infrastructure is being kept up with. When I was out on Jordan Road today presenting the Farm Family of the Year award to a farmer, and he's running this agricultural operation, and I'm riding down the road to get to it, and basically it's an old farm road. But guess what's on the side of it? They're building houses on the side of it. Nobody is updating the road. So how does that operate? He's trying to drive tractors down his road, producing food for us and tending the land. And then, of course, folks are upset. Well, it's nobody's fault. The problem lies with the fact we've got an infrastructure issue, right? If you sit on 1010 trying to get home every day and it takes you 50 minutes to go 5 miles, and I'll tell you, that is the direct result of not having a state legislator in southern Wake County that can bring home the bacon to get those roads paved, updated, those intersections changed. We have got to have an advocate that will do that. People are always looking at their municipal bodies. The vast majority of the roads in this state are state roads. Something like 90% of them are maintained by the state. Our towns cannot do that. We've got to have DOT in here trying to figure out how to get that traffic moving in southern Wake County. 540 is great. I think it's a travesty that our neighbors to the north get to ride on that road for free, and down here in the south they're extracting toll money from us. That's a whole nother issue that we need to address. But it's going to take some surface road improvements. It's going to take improvements in making sure we've got quality water and sewer. It's going to take improvements in electricity service to some of these rural areas that are developing. And it's going to take improvements in broadband access. We've got so many folks that are working from home now, can do their job at their computer. All over this district, we're very close, fortunate to be within a stone's throw to RDU. But if we want to really be competitive, we've got to make sure that folks are able to get that high-speed internet there, and that we've got an advocate to work for that. So what I tell folks is, I know it sounds like I'm all over the place, but the role of a state senator really is all over the place. You cannot be a single issue candidate. You can't be somebody that doesn't understand how state government works, because that place will eat you up and spit you out. And what I'm able to go in is hit the ground running from day one. Look, I'll be a freshman. There'll be folks that have been there. That's what they call you when you're a new state senator or new legislator. There've been folks that have been there a long time, but a lot of those folks know me. They followed the work that I've done. They know I'm no dummy. They know that I'm a fighter, and they know that my heart's in the right place, and that we are good folks in this district, and that we need our slice of the pie too.
Definitely that slice of the pie in the Southern Wake, and I have ties there. Like I stated to you off air, it was first started my career in Fuquay Varina Police Department. Seen that place grow. You've seen it grow tremendously, just in the area where you're born in Apex. All that area is growing and growing. I'm here in Johnston County, and we the tremendous growth here. I know that's not your district, but a lot of people moving to this great state of North Carolina, and people like you. We need people like you that's going to help keep that mandate and keep it up and keep it running successfully. You said a lot of great things, but I want to ask you, it's been on my mind. I'm sure a lot of people have that same inclination today. Now hear that you are an educator. Why not the superintendent of education, or instructions as we call it? Obviously, we know you have a resume that would fit that, but I know some are going to say, wow, why did he shoot for that seat? We love that he's shooting for the Senate seat, but why not that superintendent?
Well, that's a great question. Realistically, a statewide campaign is really tough. It would be very difficult. I'll talk to you in a couple of different veins, but I'll speak to you individually. A statewide campaign is really tough. It's tough for those of us that are working a full-time job. It's hard enough to be in a district and try to compete for everybody's attention, to be everywhere you need to be. Wasn't ready to resign. Still love working in the school. Still love working with students. And that's something I'll be able to continue to do in the state Senate, because it's part-time service in the state Senate. I'm still good with the young people. I still have something to contribute. I tell folks my work at our alternative middle school, it's almost like a trauma center. And if you equate what we're doing to medicine, the trauma surgeon in the south side of Chicago, he better get pretty good at it, or he's going to find himself out of a job pretty quick, because it's coming at him fast and furious. Where I am in the school system, a lot of our students have experienced traumatic events that have sent them to me, some real issues they're having with the school. So it's not a secret what we're doing, but it is something I can articulate. It's something that I can bring to the Senate, explain to them the need for more programs like that are going to work to sort of grow strong children, instead of try to fix broken men and women, because it's a whole lot easier to do the former than the latter. And then also pragmatically speaking, Antoine, they say that the one who controls the purse strings really has the power, and state Senate, state House control those purse strings. And if we're serious about supporting and saving our next generation of young folks from all this garbage that's out there, all these things that take away their hope, all these things that tell them why they cannot instead of how they can, And until we have somebody that's willing to put money where their mouth is, until we've got somebody that can talk about the effectiveness of that in the state legislature, we're going to continue to lose ground. Education is not an issue that should be divided between Republican and Democrat, just like I don't believe law enforcement should be either. There are some things that are too important to play politics with. But what I can do is I can see through the sometimes educators speak in educationese, right? They use all these terms, and you know it, you were a school resource officer, and they try to out-talk you and well, you don't know what you're talking about because you haven't gone, you don't have a teaching degree, or you haven't done this, or you haven't done that. They're going to have an awful hard time saying that about Scott Lassiter, because I have done it. I've walked shoulder to shoulder. I've led families. I've out of trouble. I've advocated for children. I've taught children. I've started schools. And we're doing the work. And the interesting thing is, it's counter to a lot of what the current narrative is. Yeah. Our students will rise to the expectations we place on them. Sure, it may be more difficult for some, but we can support them and scaffold them and work them up to that level. Nobody grows when we tell them that we don't expect it from them. Imagine yourself at work, and you've got a boss that comes to you. You got a sergeant comes to you, and every day he's expecting you to be terrible. This is the Barney Fife mentality for law enforcement, right? They never tried. As much as I love Sheriff Taylor, he never tried to grow Barney. Barney might have been a heck of a lawman if he had had the support, if he was shown some of the things that Sheriff Taylor knew and elevated. And our young people are the very same thing. We've got to give them the tools it takes to be successful, not the excuses that make them comfortable in failure.
Beautiful. Listen, I knew the answer to that. I wanted the listeners to hear that. And the main piece of the pie is, and the reason why I wanted to extract that is because you hit it on the nail. You said exactly where I wanted to hear. You are still serving the public, and you have no desire to release your role as assistant principal, because you're doing what I call the hard work, definitely working at alternative school. And you and I have that experience, knowing that from the SRO standpoint, that you actually being in the environment of that school. I know how that dynamics look, and because you deal with it every day. It's a tough environment. It is not for every principal to be in, and you are the man for the job. I say that because the role that you're taking on is going to be a tough one, making these decisions, and we need people like you who are seeing it from within and seeing it in real time as it pertains to our school system. And I love that answer. And you're right, Brother Scott. Couldn't do it statewide, race in, also run a full-time position as a principal. So I wanted the listeners to hear that for a particular purpose, so they can understand your heart and where you're at with it. And that speaks volumes to you. You're not looking to leave that role. You're looking to help the state out, but also do it from the standpoint of education and being a elected official and as a senator. So we definitely appreciate that. But I want to segue into really quick. We are going to get out of here in a moment because, listen, you all have to understand this. Mr. Lassiter, candidate Lassiter, whatever you want to call him, Brother Lassiter, Mr. Lassiter, he's worked a full-time day. And we know dealing with kids can be exhausting. So I want to respect your time. But what I want to ask you is this, just kind of give us a little highlight of your platform. I know you talked about what the senator does. What is Brother Scott Lassiter going to do for the people of Southern Wake? I want them to hear that, and then we'll let you have closing remarks, and then we'll get out of here.
Thank you. First of all, I'm gonna work hard. Nobody's going to outwork me. I grew up with a granddaddy that was a Marine Corps officer in World War II era that taught me an awful lot. And one of the things I'll never forget him saying, Antoine, was, don't criticize somebody unless you're willing to do their job. Matter of fact, that's what got me into teaching. And I'm not here to attack people. I'm not here to cast aspersions on folks. I'm here to do the job. I'm here to do the hard work. I'm here to listen. I'm here to try to bridge the gap as much as I can and find similarities and commonalities between people of all different backgrounds. But I'm also here to stand up when it takes a principled stand and when that's necessary. I'm not beholden to anybody. I've made no promises to anybody in this campaign except to do my absolute best and use my best judgment to listen, rely on my faith, rely on my education, rely on my foundational principles to do the work. So I'm pleased to have a great deal of endorsements from folks of all different walks of life, law enforcement officers, educators, elected officials, everyday people. But this isn't your normal campaign. This is a campaign where I'm trying to be totally transparent, the same way in which I would govern, in a totally transparent way. And a phrase that comes to mind is good governance. And that is a concept out there, right? It's easy to be the bomb thrower, the bombastic guy, the person that just launches that attack and then backs up and watches everybody argue and scream and yell, and they get their 30 seconds of fame. That's not me. I'm a professional public servant that is trained to solve problems and to administer programs and has the experience in an elected office, understanding everything from garbage pickup to managing your police and fire department. To roads. It's a very similar thing that a town council person does to a legislator, just on a smaller scale. So my experience has prepared me for this. But again, I want to just conclude my platform with talking about the importance of getting back to basics, making sure that we're handling our responsibilities in government appropriately. And that looks an awful lot like prioritizing education, prioritizing infrastructure. And infrastructure could be human infrastructure too. You can have all the beautiful jails you want. You can have all the fancy new police cars, all the fancy fire trucks. But if you don't have somebody in them to provide that service, to provide that human element, and the right person in it, the person that's compensated appropriately, that's trained appropriately, that's supported appropriately, well, you just wasted all your money on that new Pierce fire truck or those new Chargers that you got sitting out in the parking lot, because ain't nobody going to come and do it. So, or that new police station. So nobody's foolish here. I'll go work at the raggedy school, but as long as I know that somebody is there that has my back, right? You'll go work at the police department and drive a 20-year-old Crown Victoria if you know that supervisor is going to have your back when you're doing the right thing. So that's part of infrastructure too. And then economic development is always important, right? We've got to make sure that we continue to create a climate where businesses, jobs organically come here. I'm not one out here that thinks we need to be writing checks to try to get the next, big company to move over here. Sometimes that incentive game is a race to the bottom. You end up paying them so much, and all they end up doing is bringing in a whole bunch of their own people. So that's great if Apple moves over here, right? But if all they do is take their workforce from Cupertino and move them into Cary, what have we really won except some more traffic and the right to say that Apple is headquartered here? So let's make sure that we are providing an even playing field, not picking winners and losers for economic development purposes, where the cream can rise to the top. That's what I'm saying when it comes to economic development. So I know that's a lot. I encourage folks to go to www.votescottlassiter.com. You'll find more than you ever wanted to know about me there. You will find a thoroughly built out platform. You'll find endorsements that are there. We're running this race and for the right reasons, and that I promise you.
That's 100%. I backed that up. And I want to officially endorse my brother, Scott Lassiter. Whatever you need from me there. I want to be on your team. And let me tell you something. We're going to continue to get that word out. I still have a bond and a connection to the Fuquay Arena police officers down there and some donors as well. And I want to make sure they understand that the time is now. We have to, you hit on the nail, you said restructuring, and I include that into saying restructuring our government. And I know you know better than I know, Scott. They talked about defunding the police or reimagining. I did an episode on reimagining the police, and I talked about what does reimagine the police even look like? How can we reimagine the police? I was sharing this with some of my colleagues, police officer friends yesterday at work. I said, how can we reimagine the police if we haven't reimagined ourselves as citizens and as human beings. Why are we taking all the brunt of that? We have to reimagine, if you want to use that term, we have to restructure everybody. And I think you doing that within the scope of policing is very important to me, very near and dear to my heart, because you know better than I know there are great men and women that are serving this state but country who make accurate decisions, split decisions, but we make accurate ones, and we get crucified for the ones that we don't make accurately. That is another split decision. But I thank you for supporting us, and you have, again, my full endorsement, and I wish you great success in your campaign. And we do want to know where all our listeners can find you, donate, support, get out the vote for you, work the polls, whatever you need from us. How could we help you in your quest?
I'd say it all starts at that website or Facebook. VoteScottLassiter.com is the website. Scott Lassiter, NC Senate, is Facebook, on Instagram. We're here. We're here. I'm working myself to death, but it's a short run to March 5th. It's extremely important that we've got the right candidate here that can win this election. It's important that we are continuing to listen to folks. I welcome all the help. We're building a broad coalition, a broad consensus. Everybody has something that they can contribute, whether it be time, talent, treasure, or just prayer. So I tell you, it is humbling to be on this podcast with you. It's a beautiful thing. To all of our law enforcement, all of our public safety that are out there listening, I want to say thank you. The work I've done to support police pales in comparison to the work police have done to support us. And it is not, it's not fair that you, just like educators, are being asked to be everything to everybody. I don't know how we can expect to take public safety professionals. We've got firemen on fire trucks that are having to play psychiatrist, right? We've got police officers that are going into homes and having to play family therapist. It's not fair to ask somebody that signed up to do the important work that y'all are doing and continue to dump and dump and dump on them. And absolutely, the training is important. Understanding how to de-escalate crises is important for teachers, important for police officers, important for anybody that interacts with the public. But at some point, folks are going to have to start, like you said, folks are going to have to look in the mirror, start reimagining what their expectations are, taking some individual personal responsibility, and recognizing that all of us out here in these public service fields are doing the absolute best we can. It's a cliche now, but it's overworked and underpaid. And it's time that we come together and support those that are supporting us day in and day out.
I love it. As we sit here and talk, I was sitting there thinking, I need a title for this show. And it is very befitting. And I want to coin this phrase here. You have Brother Scott Lassiter, who is a person who's coming from humbleness and humility. And so what I want to title tonight for you is going to be Scott Lassiter, the humble man. Or I should say the humble leader. That's what we are looking for in our leaders, humbleness. And you have all those character traits that I just mentioned. And I pray. And at the top of all this huge list, he is a believer of Christ. And so for all our Christian believers out there who say, I just want to choose somebody who's a Christian, is going to lead by God's way, Scott's your man. Scott, we're going to get out of here. But again, if you have anything else you want to say, if not, we can close the show. And I just ask, as we always do in that political voice, right? I ask for your humble support, right? Is that what they say? Or right. Your humble vote.
That's right.
I'll go ahead and say that for you. But if there's anything else that you want to talk about or say, we can do that before we end.
Just want to remind your viewers out there, especially public safety folks, we are doing a Hot Dogs for Heroes event on this coming Friday. So come by, eat a hot dog on me. It'll be in the Lowe's parking lot there in Holly Springs. It's a friend of mine that's been, if you've been around the area, you know he used to have his hot dog business in front of the Lowe's Home Improvement in Cary. Now he moved to the Lowe's Home Improvement in Holly Springs, Jim's Old Time Hot Dogs. They're amazing. I would love to just shake your hand, say thank you, drive the patrol car, drive the fire truck, drive the ambulance through. We'll throw them in a bag and you keep on going. If you're a teacher, if you're a nurse, postal worker, any of y'all that are keeping this thing going, please come out there. Let me say thank you on behalf of the citizens of Wake County, on behalf of the campaign. Also, we've got if anybody's a beach music fan, a little soul R&B, if you've been around North Carolina long enough, I don't know how you don't know the beach music and the shag dance. And those two in politics sort of go hand in hand. And we have got, I'm blessed to know Craig Woolard, who's the lead singer of the Embers. Craig and Durwood Martin, both Grammy award-winning artists, are coming and performing for me on February 21st. You can find that under the events tab of my website. It's a free concert. Just come on out. Hey, have a date night on me. Bring somebody that's special to you. Invite your neighbors, invite your friends. Again, this is what this campaign is about. I'm not trying to hide from anybody. I'm not trying to hide anything. And I'm just out here humbly, as you said, asking for your vote if you think it's the right thing. But you got to meet me before you vote against me. How about that? Don't say I didn't give you an opportunity. Cell phone number's online too. Call me anytime, 919-749-4259. And look, I'm not going to change it when I go to the Senate. And I'm going to remember who sent me there, and I'm going to answer those phone calls, all right? I'm going to answer y'all's, and we can tell the lobbyists they can call the secretary, right?
I love it. If you want to hear from the Embers, oh man, Carolina girl,
yes.
We love it. We got summer breeze. We like all that good stuff. Listen, I'm a fan of the Embers. I had an opportunity to listen to them. I was working as a Wake County Sheriff's deputy. You remember back when they had the Beach Music Festival in Garner? That last time they had it. And if I could be quite frank, I didn't know a whole lot about beach music, but I got out there and saw these people just having a great time dancing. And then the Embers, oh man, you guys are amazing with those shirts on. I was like, man, I gotta get out there and cut a rug with these folks.
A rug. We'll teach you the shag. Up 1, 2, back 1, 2, rock step. All right, that was we'll have you doing it in no time.
I love it. We're going to get all those flyers up again. I know I posted the hot dogs with Scott on my Facebook, but I definitely want to get that out in many other areas. And anybody else who wants to promote and put on their social media, please do that. Scott can get you the information he just told you, or you can reach out to me. He sent me the flyer. I have it too. We'll make it work. So, Scott, I really appreciate you, and I pray that March 5th will be your victory there. How many folks are running against? How many people are you running?
So there's one other individual in the primary, and then there was a general election opponent. So, and look, we're going to stick to issues. I'm proud of where I stand, and I just encourage folks to do their homework.
With God's help, that seat's yours. That seat's yours. I'm looking forward to it's going to be a lot of great victory parties going on in the March, and then of course following up in November. But we do look forward to attending those events when they come abreast, and that's your seat. God will give it to you.
Well, now look, Officer Thomas, I'm not one to argue with the police, but I'm gonna argue with you on something. That's never gonna be my seat. That's gonna be the seat of the people. That's gonna be the seat of the people that sent me there, because that's what it is. And look, if working in middle schools for 13, 14 years hadn't kept me humble, it hadn't done nothing. So remember that. It'll be your seat.
And I love it. And I always am not afraid or to sit here and stand corrected. I love it, and I promote it. Again, you have been listening to Scott Lassiter. And like I said, the humble leader, he is running for District 13 and the North Carolina Senate. And you heard what he said. If God granted that position and that seat, that is your seat as the people. Humbly come to him, and he will humbly respond. It's been a pleasure. I've had a great time. And to all the listeners of Real Talk, I'm your host, Officer Antoine Thomas. And as I always like to say as I end these shows, reach one, teach one. But also we ask that God continue to bless our men and women that are serving in blue. And, of course, our great country and our military. We saw a deadly strike, drone strike place to go, and we're praying that our commander-in-chief will, along with his staff, make the wise decisions, and wherever we need to strike back, we do that. And I pray, as I continue to pray for Israel, and that God will bring peace to those great individuals. And so until next time, you have been listening to Real Talk. And again, this is Scott Lassiter. Please go out and support him. Go to his website, and on March 5th, choose him as your District 13 Senator. We'll see you again.